Dave Olson, our friend, who's always such a big part of this, says, SpaceX has now landed 3 rockets on a barge at sea. Will they continue to increase their index of human awesomeness, or will we become complacent when they keep sticking the landings? And the reason I wanted to take that question, Dave, is that when we become complacent, that's when we win. We're no longer amazed that an airliner lands safely. We're amazed when an airliner doesn't land safely. We're astonished and shocked. People who are afraid of flying, we haven't had a fatal accident on a major carrier in 15 years. It'll be 15 years in September. 15 years of 30,000, 40,000 flights a day, and not a single crash of an American carrier with an actual jet. We had one. It happened right after September 11th. It was the American Airlines crash. Airbus crashed in New York, and that was the clock reset. And since then, it's been almost 15 years, and we haven't had a single fatality on a major airliner. We came pretty damn close when Captain Sullenberger lost both engines climbing out of LaGuardia. But, coolness under pressure and training, courage, competence, and skill meant that record is still holding because he got every single one of them out of there. And that's all that really matters. So when the extraordinary becomes commonplace and boring, Dave, that's when you've succeeded. Air travel used to be unspeakably dangerous. And if you read Fate is the Hunter, it's about the very first days of commercial aviation right after World War II. You'd find out these guys were losing an airplane a week. They'd lose a crew and the people on board a week. Whereas Johnson and Edwards, they flew into a mountain in Montreal. Oh, okay. What happened to these guys? Well, they were killed. Looks like a rudder, departed the airplane over the South Pacific. Okay. We learn, they say federal aviation regulations are written in blood. It's really true. If the best you can hope for, I think certainly the case with the Virgin crash, Virgin America Spaceship Two crash. To me, it's unreasonable that you will not make mistakes and kill people. I think there's a minimum cost of lives that has to be paid, because if you're doing something new, you're making mistakes that no one's made before, and you won't know what they are until you make them. And some of them you'll get lucky on, and some of them you won't. And the only thing that's unforgivable in an environment like that is to make the same mistake twice. That's paying extra. Now you're adding interest to the bill, and you're making unforced errors. You can't really go up and make the same mistake twice. You have to go up and make a new mistake now. One of the things they say one of the things my flight instructor said to me real early was, Bill, learn from other people's mistakes because you're not going to live long enough to make them all yourself. That's right. I read accident reports and I say, I shouldn't have done this. And I was up there over the mountains last couple nights ago in a single-engine airplane in the dark. I was thinking I should not have put myself in this situation. And I don't think I'll put myself in that situation again. But at the same time, I was thinking, I did know that this was a possibility, and I did think that this was well within my capabilities, and it is well within my capabilities. So, it was memorable, and I had to focus, but I don't think it was ever dangerous. Certainly I wasn't ever in a space of like, my God, what's going to happen? It was just, all right, just keep it under control and don't hit anything. I think actually, Dave, the problem is simply that we're going so slowly that we're trying to avoid paying the price at all, and therefore we're not only going to pay the price, but we're not going to get what we want. We're not going to get what we're paying for. Progress costs lives, and there are people who do the flying who are fully prepared to take that risk. They were prepared to take that risk in the 60s. They're prepared to take that risk in the dawn of aviation. Most of those guys who went up in those crates were killed. Orville Wright was very nearly killed. He has a terrible crash. He never really fully recovered, but they're prepared to take the risk. It's not a suicide mission, but it's dangerous. I forget what the number of original male pilots, when they first started flying male in the late 20s and 30s, they're flying in sleet. There's no navigational systems. They're literally flying underneath the scud levels 200 feet above the ground, trying to read the name of the town off of the water tower. And these guys were losing 1 out of every 4 guys, and I understand that during the golden age of test flight out in Edwards Air Force Base, the chance of a test pilot coming back from a mission was 75%. He had a 25% chance of not coming home every time he went up. You run those odds, it's It's murder. But we don't make the mistakes that we made then. We made new mistakes. And with civil aviation, as far as civil aviation is concerned, the fact that we've gone 15 years without a fatality is an indication that we have about run out of mistakes. That's not to say we won't find something new, we will, but we have certainly made all of the common mistakes, and we've made most of the outlying mistakes, and we've also understood how mistakes are made. Some of the procedures that they put into place in commercial aviation cockpits have since been moved into the operating room by pilots who happen to be doctors, because one of the things, this is a perfect example actually, one of the things that, one of these regulations written in blood is the idea of a sterile cockpit. And what that means is, it is now against FAA regulations, kind of a nice tie-in to earlier, for a commercial crew, a pilot and co-pilot. It is against regulations, and they can lose their license over this, to talk about anything other than the flying at hand during critical flight phases like taxi out, takeoff, landing, and so on. Because looking at the black boxes and listening to the voice recorders, we found out that entire airplanes full of people, 140 people, died because the pilot and the co-pilot were talking about a date that he was about to have, and they were so into that aspect of it that they forgot to set the flaps for takeoff or something like that. So now you're not allowed to do that anymore. Now the only conversation that's allowed during these critical flight phases is conversation directly related to the flight. That has saved lots of people. Lots of people. That mistake not only did we not have to make again, but we basically eliminated any number of upcoming mistakes because of things like that. And when they take it to the operating room, things like checklists, things like having to get verbal confirmation from other team members, then you find out that the number of errors in the surgical wards goes way, way down. Way down. You're not amputating the wrong leg anymore, because now you've got a co-pilot surgeon who says, we're going to confirm now on our checklist that we are in fact going to amputate the right leg. And he says, well, I'm kind of prepping the left leg. Well, we got a little problem here, sir. It works. So, and it works because we paid for it. It worked because we found out why people died when we didn't do it that way. And as I say, we're running out of errors in commercial aviation. We're now at the point where 15 years of an unbroken safety record is telling me that we've gotten all the demons pretty much wrung out of the system. Nothing is really going to come at us as just like, what? I don't think. And that's not to say we won't have mistakes, but we'll have mistakes that will be, shouldn't have done that, as opposed to what the hell happened. By the way, they say that if you're killed as a pilot and you go to the pearly gates, there's one of two answers that you're going to get, or questions rather, that you're going to get from St. Peter, and one of them is okay and the other one's not. If you get up to the pearly gates after you've been killed in a plane crash and St. Peter says to you, hey, tough break, kid, then okay. You got hit by a meteorite, or an elevator fell off, or some part failed that we didn't know before. Tough break, kid, sorry it had to be you, but, dems the brakes. On the other hand, if he says, what were you thinking? That's a whole different animal. You should have known better, and you did know better, and you did it anyway. That's just stupidity as opposed to bad luck. Anyway,